Coming out of the All-Star break, there is no better time to make some trades to boost your roster. Matt and I have some great players that you should be trading for and away on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Wane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly to Matt and I, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, you get personalized, in-depth experience through text messaging alerts right to your cell phone. And we offer just so much more on there than we can in this 30-minute podcast. So if you want to check us out on there, you can find the link to our Subtext in the bio, wherever you're listening or watching, or if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. And this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right state can make you a fan of even your rival cities. Check out Booking.com for your next day today. And all right, guys, as I mentioned at the top, I think this is one of the best times to take advantage. We kind of talk about adding players on yesterday's episode. You know, people are starting to get ready for fantasy football, people tuning out. You know, they may not have been paying attention of trends of late, but, you know, we have. So we got you guys covered. And, Matt, why don't we start with guys that we are trying to trade away for maximum value at the moment?
All right, let's talk about Rece Hinds of the Cincinnati Reds. Honestly, he's having a nice little stint, but I'm not buying it whatsoever. He's played 9 games. He's had 34 at-bats. He has 7 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 5 bombs, 11 ribs, 2 stolen bases, batting a .353, an OBP of .389, the slug of .971, an OPS of 1.359. Like, these are ridiculous stats. And you look at what this kid has done in his minor league career, and it's just, okay. Showed a little bit of power in 23 where, through 412 at-bats, he had 23 home runs, with 20 stolen bases, batting .269 the year before. He really had about 12 through 292. It's still a nice pace, but, batting .233. He's never been like a picture of batting average, production, I would say, even this year before getting the call. So I think this is all unrealistic. And at this point, I think it's the perfect guy to like throw in a trade. Not really like say, okay, cool, like I'm going to be able to go and get him for like Ali Richmond or something like that. But, he's somebody that could kind of drive the deal over the finish line. And I think Rece Hinds should be moved immediately.
Matt, I'm fully with you on that, brother. And if you guys have been playing fantasy for a while, just watching baseball, Aristides Aquino. Not that he's necessarily Aristides Aquino. Actually, Aquino was better when he came up. He went on a crazy streak. It was like 16 home runs in like 30 games or something crazy like that. But Hinds just is reminiscent of that, the way he's hitting these homers. It's such a heavy pace. But honestly, he hasn't even played the last couple of games. He didn't play on July 22nd. And as we're recording today, today, July 22nd, as we're recording, he didn't play, and then he didn't play in the game before that on July 21st against the Reds. Rece Hinds plays for the Reds against those Nationals. I'm all over the place today. But Rece Hinds, he's not, playing against lefties, it looks like. So I say while the iron's still hot, while these numbers look as good as they do, you even use the underlying stats to your advantage at this point. The batting average stuff looks good. The bat speed, exit velocity. Just as Matt said, really not buying it for Rece Hinds going forward. So I think we're going to maximize on the value that he has right now by trading him, getting him off of our teams for guys that we know are good. Let's move on to this next player, though. Let's talk some George Springer of those Toronto Blue Jays. With Springer, he's been really good over the last 30 days, but, not that I don't buy that he's good, but he's getting older. And I'm not buying the last 30-day stats where he is the 8th best player over that time for fantasy baseball with 16 runs, 8 homers, 25 RBIs, a steal, and a 333 batting average. And OPS over 1,000. Just absolutely, George Springer's been on fire of late. 2 homers in his last game on the 21st. He's leading off for the Blue Jays. Another homer on the 19th. But, with George Springer's older age, I'm just not necessarily buying it. He's not as fast as he used to be. The Blue Jays aren't as good as they have been in past years. I think you could capitalize on how good he's been of late. You throw those stats I pointed out there. So be like, oh, he's hitting homers left and right. He's leading off. And I think that's how we get George Springer off for our teams. And just once again, it's just maximizing on value. He's been hot of late. I don't think he's going to keep it up. I think he's, more towards the baseline of what we've seen on the year numbers for Springer. And, we got some really good names coming up in the second half that you can use George Springer to try and go acquire.
I mean, I agree with some of your take, not all of it. So, I am buying the George Springer second half, where, I think we see, not a return to glory, but I am going to say that, the guy that you were drafting as a top 75 pick, I think he'll live up to that ADP. And I think we're just going to see it all in a bunch at the second half. Do I think he's going to be also the number 8 player to end the season? Absolutely not. And if I can get an overwhelming offer, yeah, I'll do it. But the thing is, I don't think you're going to be able to move him for a big name. And at that point, I'm not going to want to package him in a deal when I think that there's obviously, better days to come. And there's not many players that are going to probably have a second half that I think he's going to have. The underlying stats support it. He's never been a big average exit velocity guy. The last couple of years, he's been ranging between 88 and 89 miles per hour on the average velo. Barrels up about the same time. The xWOBA has been about the same. The only thing that I've kind of seen that's kind of slowed down a little bit is maybe the launch angle and bat speed, but it's not enough to be okay, I'm really scared. Last year he hit 21 home runs, and he's already on a better pace for that right now with 13 on the season, with most of it coming over the last month. I'm all about what I think the second half could be for George Springer. So again, if I can get a better player that I think is going to be more consistent than George Springer, then yes, I'll move him. But ultimately, I don't think that he's a guy I really want to move unless it is that overwhelming offer for him. But let's move on to another guy like Dom was talking about, something about, I can't even say that guy's last name that you were referring to when you were talking about Hinds.
Aristides Aquino?
Yeah, Aquino. So it's not as bad, but Brent Doyle, I think, is going to it reminds me a lot of Eric Thames. You remember Eric Thames?
Yeah, that's another good one.
Right? Had a monster first half, had me fooled years ago. And, came up, did amazing stats. And then the second half, he fell off like you jumped off a cliff or jumped off the Empire State Building. You just flat on his face. It was bad. And I think Brent Doyle, we might see the same. I can't buy the fact that a guy that was hitting 203 last year and had 10 home runs to 431 at bats, is now has 16 home runs to 345 at bats, and in addition is already had 20 stolen bases and batting 278. It's too much of a jump for me to say, hey, this kid is really doing what we think this is legitimate, I guess is what I'm getting at. And you just look okay, dude, yeah, the xWOBA is pretty nice. The batting average is lower. It's at 259 versus the 278. His slug is good, but his average velo is about 89 miles per hour. Yes, he plays in Coors because he plays for the Colorado Rockies. I understand that. But, still, you still got to hit the ball pretty decent. The launch angle is nice, and he is getting hard hit, creating hard contact about 42% of the time. Bat speed is a little low. He's chasing, he's whiffing, he's striking out. He's not really walking. And, his max EV on the year, which is a decent one at 111, isn't going to be a, knock your socks off kind of type play. I'm not really about him. And I'd rather be on the other side of Eric Thames. So I'm totally trading Brent Doyle away if I humanly can. But, coming up next, guys, we got guys like Taj Mahal Bradley, what you do with him, Garrett Crochet, and guys like Fernando Tatis and how we're handling him in the second half. And all this is coming up right after this.
And this episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find a perfect stay even in your baseball's rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. And every time we talk about Booking.com, I always love to bring up Camden Yards. As a Yankee fan, you can see I got the Yankee shirt on today. Still been to Camden Yards a couple of times and always has thoroughly enjoyed it, especially with those Baltimore Orioles being so good and competitive. It's always fun to see them play my New York Yankees. So, once again, the right stay can make you a fan of even any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on their site or in the Booking.com app. And then I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. And guys, didn't steer you wrong with those Celtics. When it came to the NBA Finals, and I'm not going to do you wrong when it comes to, the MLB this summer. So once again, head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer right now. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And then once again, as always, Matt and I are introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season continues to unfold, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball to a new level. Whew. And then, Matt, as you know, brother, that is always a lot. So I am going to pass this next guy off to you, if you don't mind, sir.
Sure. We're talking Taj Mahal Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, I know we said to add him everywhere you humanly could this season, but now it's time to trade him away. And there's a few reasons why. One, he's at his peak value. The kid is supporting a sub-3 ERA to 2.63. He's played about 13 starts. He has pitched about 75 innings through 90 strikeouts, a 105 WHIP. He is looking fantastic. You look at the underlying stats, and that's where I'm just like, okay, cool. I do think there's better days to come, and I think in dynasty leagues, this kid has a lot more upside than he does for redrafts, and this is kind of more of a redraft tip. You look at it, his xERA is a 3.71. It's more than a run higher. His fastball velocity is super, super good, 96.4 miles per hour, but he's giving up a lot of hard contact. His average exit velocity is 91 miles per hour. He's walking guys pretty often. He's allowing guys to barrel up. He's not suppressing hard hit, and he's not creating ground balls. These are all signs that there's worse days to come, unfortunately, for the second half. And Taj just needs to be traded now while his value is absolutely at its peak. And you could probably get a pretty decent price for him. Quite honestly, you might be able to get a couple underperformers or a guy on the IL, or package him and somebody else on this list like him and Springer for Fernando Tatis or Ali Rutschman if you're really trying to go. You still have to add a little bit more, but at the same time, to push these two over the edge and a guy that might be struggling and need to move a guy like that to add two pieces to fill some holes, might be able to pull something off.
And real quick, in case you guys were wondering, I did agree with Matt on Brent Doyle. Just look at the home away splits on Doyle. Really good at home. really bad away from course. But let's jump in with Taj Bradley. Matt, you read off the last 30 days numbers, right? They've just been so good. And trading away is just maximizing value. It's not that we don't think Taj is going to be good the rest of the way. He will be good, just not going to be a sub-1 ERA and whip guy the rest of the way. So I think if you can trade him for if you want to go the pitching route, a top 20 type of pitcher, or if you can go out and get you an outfielder, middle infielder, if you're struggling for that, get you a top 10 guy at those positions, maybe even like a top 7 guy. I'm doing that with Taj Bradley. Otherwise, I'm holding, not really looking to move him, but if there's somebody that's very interested, or if you throw it out there, hey, I'm looking to move Taj Bradley, somebody values him higher than what I was talking about, then you go ahead and get that move done. Let's move into this other half of the episode. Oh no, actually, we got one more trade away for you guys before we move into the trade force. Let's talk about Garrett Crochet. This guy, I think he's actually really, really good. I think he's figured it out. I think he does have another level here, but I don't, unless he gets traded. Even at that point, I think there's an innings limit here that is coming very close. And I don't know if Crochet is going to be one of those guys that, even though he is good, and even though I do think he has found a new level, is he just going to get tired? Is he going to get hurt if he throws too many innings? Last year, he threw 12 innings. The year before that, he was hurt. Year before that, Crochet, 54 innings. And if we're not familiar with Crochet, he does pitch for those Chicago White Sox. Really good numbers on the year. Like I said, it's not that I don't think he's going to be good, but where's the limit? Where's the wall for Crochet himself? There's just a lot of questions when it comes to the 25-year-old. I'll be drafting him everywhere if the value's right next year, just because I am a believer in Garrett Crochet. But I just, like I said, there's too many question marks heading into the second half. So I'm trying to sell him. Like I said, kind of similar for Bradley. I think you can get more for Crochet, maybe even like a top 15 kind of pitcher, maybe like, a top 20 outfielder type, something like that. But I'm trading him away. Just can't really buy that he's going to be a solid part of my rotation heading, towards the championship.
I agree. I mean, he's having an incredible season, and there's nothing even in the underlying stats will say, hey,
he's good. He's good.
Yeah, like he does everything right. Like you look at his baseball savant page, even if you look at the reflection off my glasses right now, you see just pure red. And Crochet is fantastic, but Dom, it's a great spot, right? The amount of innings he's ever pitched. His max before this season was 54 innings, and that was in 21. So he's blown past it. So there is definitely some inning limits coming this way. They may be even showcasing him for him to get traded. But again, how long does that team even allow him up? They might shelf him for the rest of the season, and kind of bring him back in September. We'll see. I don't like it. Great point, Dom. Let's move on to our trade for players. And Fernando Tatis is somebody I mentioned right before the break. And you know what? I think he's the prime example of going out and acquire a guy that's on the IL. Fernando Tatis was having a fantastic season before obviously going down. I think once he returns, he'll return to glory pretty easily. He's had 308 at-bats. He has 50 runs. He has 14 homers, 8 stolen bases, batting .279, an OBP of 354, a slug of 468, and an OPS of 822. Great numbers. Would love to see him walk just a tad bit more. And quite honestly, everything else is looking really, really stellar. There's just red across the board. My guy also just needs, to be able to steal some bases. This 8 stolen base part is the part that's kind of killing it for me. I just want to see him steal a little bit more bases. And then this dude can be a top 10 player next year without a doubt. If he can even just repeat what he did the year before at 29, I'd be a happy camper. And go for 30. I think it's all in there. And I think Fernando Tatis is going to have a fantastic second half.
And actually, before I give you a really, really interesting take on Fernando Tatis Jr., that is, actually just coming up next. Really awesome take.
Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning a championship. It also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Motors, guaranteed fit your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, we're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive with ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions may apply. eBay Motors Guarantee Fit is only applicable for U.S. customers. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. You can make your selections, submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I might as well give you some great picks to start off with. Opt for Paul Skeens to have higher than 8 strikeouts in his next start. Opt for Jose Ramirez to have higher than 1.5 total bases in his next outing. And lastly, opt for Bobby Witt Jr. to have a dinger in his next game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. And Dom, please enlighten us about this awesome take you got.
I promised it, and I promised I'm not going to let you down as well. So let's talk about Fernando Tatis Jr. And Matt, I'm right on board with you. I think that, as long as Tatis can come back healthy, and that's the big thing, as long as he is at, let's say he's at 90% coming into the second half. And Kevin AC of the San Diego Union Tribune has reported that Tatis got an MRI of late. This report is from last Thursday. And he's progressing in the right way. They're, expecting him to be back, doing baseball activity, or ramping up, as he's going. He's resumed playing catch, swinging a bat. So going to be, facing live hitting soon. Honestly, sounds to me like maybe 2-3 weeks out for, seeing Tatis back. Don't think he's going to need too long of a minor league rehab assignment, if one at all. But here's the real key part to this take, right? You go out there and acquire him. I'm not paying, crazy amount for him in redraft. Keeper, dynasty. I'm going out there and I'm all in, putting my chips in, and I'm kind of going to do what it takes to acquire Tatis in those leagues. Here's why. It's real reminiscent of when Acuna came back off of his big injury, right? In 2022. Had a strong year, right? Played 119 games. This is Acuna in 2022. 119 games, 467 at-bats, 71 runs, 15 homers, 50 RBIs, 29 steals at 266. Real reminiscent of what Tatis is doing right now. Maybe not so much the steals, a little bit more power, less steals. But I think Tatis comes back next year and does something similar to what Acuna did last year. Maybe not 40-70, but 40-40 with a 300 batting average and 100-100 when it comes to runs and RBIs. I think that's on the table for Fernando Tatis for next year. He's that kind of caliber of player. Let me remind you of how good Fernando Tatis was in 2021 as a 22-year-old. 130 games, 478 at-bats, 99 runs, 31 triples, 42 homers, 97 RBIs, 25 steals, 282 batting average. So this is the caliber of playing we're talking about, a generational talent. I think you go out there and push, all in for Tatis and keeper and dynasty. But let's keep things pushing here. We'll try and actually get through these last two names for you pretty quickly. Adley Rutschman is a name I want to talk about here. Kind of been riding the struggle bus of late, and we just know the caliber of player Adley has been. Kind of just wanted to talk about those last 30 days for Adley because they've just been not what you would expect from a guy like this. 9 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 148 batting average. And in case you don't know, Adley Rutschman is the catcher, all-star caliber catcher for those Baltimore Orioles. I'm going out there and I'm just trying to grab him everywhere I can. Honestly, another guy in keeper dynasty, if you can get him, even 90 cents on the dollar, I'm doing it. Adley's a generational talent. I don't really think I need to say too much here about the 26-year-old catcher from Baltimore, other than I'm buying in. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the kid blows you away with his average exit velocity to be a big home run guy. Like he just has that in him. That's just, what he does. The fact that he has 17 on the season already speaks volumes to 376 at bats. But he's just having a rough month and you might be able to get him at a discount. And he's just a really good hitter. I'm really excited to see what this kid's future looks like as a whole. And I think, Dom, you said it very well. Go out and acquire him now. See if you can get him even at a relatively discount. 85 cents on the dollar, 75 cents on the dollar if you're really trying to push things. And, maybe you get that deal done, but it's totally worth it. It might be the difference maker going down the stretch into the playoffs. But let's move on. Let's talk about Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole, man, I'm a little disappointed at the underlying stats and his last 4 is pretty much his 4 starts. He's touting a 4.60 ERA through 6 starts. 29 innings pitched with 34 strikeouts and a whip of 140. Him and the Yankees got to figure something out. I'm like this with him. I would see if I can go and buy him on the cheap, but it's going to be a risky pick because is Garrett Cole actually healthy? Is he fighting through something because he's just trying to, get a different contract, trying to get an extension, trying to get more money? Is it the Yankees force him back because they need to keep, Juan Soto happy so he can resign? What's going on there? So it's a risky ad, but I don't know if don't think you're going to have to pay all that much with the way he's been performing. People are probably pretty disappointed. You look at the underlying stats and everything looks kind of ugly. You just kind of go, oh, hey, man, here is, Taj Bradley or Crochet. Give me Garrett Cole and something. And I guarantee they might take it because if they're in a hole, they held him all year. And now he's come back and done diddly. There's a good chance you might be able to go and trade up and get him. Now, like I said, it is risky, but to get rid of those 2 guys for Garrett Cole, it's definitely worth the risk.
Oh, Garrett Cole's just another guy I'm all in on. We know who he is. At 33 years old, for you younger guys that are listening, as you get older, the body doesn't respond the way it used to. Even if you are Garrett Cole, best of health, and everything, it just takes time. He's only 6 starts into the season. Honestly, that's pretty much a spring training. I know he got 12 innings in the minors, as well. So maybe we'll call it, about 7-8 starts. So maybe he's like, about 2 starts into his, normal season. But guess what? Garrett Cole's last 2 starts have been really, really good, actually. On July 19th against Tampa, Cole pitched 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, gave up a run, 117 whip. Before that, against Baltimore, Cole went out against them on July 12th. 6 innings, got the win, 7 strikeouts, gave up a run, had a 1 whip. So I think he's right around where he needs to be. If anybody is selling Cole at anything under what he's worth, I'm another guy. I'm paying 90 cents on the dollar for Cole right now. I'll be honest with you. I know who he is. When he's going the way he is, he's a top 5 pitcher in all of baseball. Last year, Cole, did his thing, 200 innings, over 200 strikeouts, under 3 ERA with a really good whip. We love him. Just get him on your team if you possibly can. Great trade line acquisition. Really, I think one of the best ones you can do for fantasy baseball. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk some Joe Ryan. Another guy, I've been around the block a couple, I've been on the block a little bit at this point. Joe Ryan has loved the underlying stuff. Looks really good, except for his breaking stuff, the way it's moving, not really great. Not getting as much ground balls as I'd like either. But literally everything else looks fantastic. Numbers on the year look pretty solid. I think the buying point reason that he's on today's episode though is hasn't looked great of late, and that's really where you can go out and just buy and on these names. Guys getting fed up with players. Joe Ryan has been bad. Don't really want him on my team anymore. His last, honestly, 3 starts have been very mediocre to bad. And like I said, that's where you get these deals done. Find those frustrated owners, and kind of like I said, your numbers do speak for themselves. I don't know how low you're going to be able to buy on a guy like Joe Ryan, but I think if you can, you go out and you do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments to be made to kind of talk them in. You could sweet talk to get in their pants. Joe Ryan, there was a lot of unfortunate talk about how he was really just a two pitch pitcher. And you can use that to your advantage. Be like, look, maybe we're starting to see the other side of things. He did slow down a little bit last year in the second half. Maybe we're about to see it again. Joe Ryan is just, you could say a whole bunch of things and you could throw all the statistical crap at him and see what happens. I mean, 75 cents to almost 85 cents on the dollar, and you're pretty much got to win there. I think he's going to be fine. He made giant leaps and bounds in his underlying stats, but I'm not going to spend enough time on him. So I want to mention this last guy, and that's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's been ugly. He's been, not the guy that we drafted at a top 40 pick, and everything about him right now is just bad. XwOB is at a 334. His X batting average is 248, but that's just about right. So that's actually an improvement. His average exit velocity is the most disappointing at 88.3 miles an hour. Just to put it in perspective, normally, you go back and you look, and it's usually about 89, 90 miles an hour. And he's just not barreling the ball. He's not creating hard contact for a guy that just generally just does all those things. I think there's better days to come. Pete Alonso is going to be fantastic. So I would be trading for him every which way I can.
Matt, I fully agree with you on that, so I'm not even going to add anything else. That is a great take, my brother. So, guys, shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball their first listen each and every day. And please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. But, guys, until tomorrow,
Peace.